In this video, we're going to configure our table, our math table, so that we can drag and drop the rows of the table. So, for example, here we have Samuel L. Jackson and Tom Holland. I want to be able to drag this row to drag Samuel down to have Tom Holland up. This is important because when you have a list of actors of a movie, you want to have the protagonist of the movie first. Therefore, being able to drag elements will help us on that. So let's configure this. Angular Material makes it really easy for us to have drag and drop functionality in our application. The only thing that we have to do is to import a module. So let's do that. Let's come here and let's go to material module.ts, and I want to import that module. I'll say from Angular CDK / drag drop. Let me say module drag drop module. I'll copy this and I'll come here and I'll paste this here. Now let's configure our table so that we can drag and drop its rows. So first I have to say here CDK drop list so that this is all draggable, and of course it has to be draggable between the elements, because I want to be able to reorder the elements of this table, which are the rows. So let me say CDK drop list data. What is the data that I want to modify when we drag and drop? Well, it is the array of selected actors. And finally here, I have to say CDK drop list drop, which means that what is the function that is going to execute when I finish dragging elements. So I will say here dropped, and I will say here event. Now let me create this function here. Let's come here, I'll say dropped, and here I will say event CDK drag drop of type any array, or an array of any. And let me put the body of the function, and this is done. Now we have to come back here because I need to configure the rows here, this math row, to be draggable. So I have to say here, let me come here and I will say CDK drag and CDK drag data equal to row, because this is the entity that I want to be able to drag, a row. And we can do a first test. Let's save everything and let's come back here, and now I will select two actors like Tom Hanks and Samuel L. Jackson, and if I try to drag Tom Hanks, you are going to see that we are indeed able to drag it, and you can see that now we have Samuel L. Jackson first and Tom Hanks second, but I haven't dropped Tom Hanks yet. If I release the mouse here, you are going to see that Tom Hanks is going to be first again. Why is that? Because although we have the UI configured so that we can drag things, we haven't worked on reordering the elements of our selected actors array so that this drag and drop is permanent. So let's go back here and let's do that. Let's come here to the class of our actors autocomplete component, and in here, in this drop function, I need to be able to reorder the elements of this selected actors array. So let me work on that. First, I need to have the previous index of the element that I dragged. So let me say const previous index equal to these selected actors find index, and I want to say actor equal event item data, and let me put this in this line. This looks better like this. Now there is a function that Angular Material offers us to be able to move items in an array, to reorder items in an array. Let me say move item array, which is a function that comes from Angular CDK drag drop. So let's come here and I will say these selected actors, which is the array. Now I need the previous index of the element and the new index, and I can get that from event current index. And that's it. With this, we are reordering the elements of the selected actors array. Finally, I need to say this table render rows, and that's it. Now let's save and let's see what we have. Let's come here. I will select all the actors so that we can play with this. Let me select Tom Hanks. And finally, let me select Samuel L. Jackson. And I can drag Samuel. And something that I need you to see is that I can say Nick Fury here, for example, and Peter Parker here, and Forrest Gump here. And I can drag them, and I'm not only dragging the name, I'm dragging the whole row. As you can see, we have Peter Parker here, we have Peter Parker here, and now we have it here. And now I can drag Samuel or Tom again. So as you can see, I can definitely reorder the elements of the table at my will. Now, as I have mentioned many times, we're going to work with a ASP.NET Core backend and a real database. It is time for us to work on those things.